Good morning, youngins. Nice to be with you again, even if I am not with you. What are we, 6 weeks, 7 weeks? I don't even know. I don't even care. I am getting so tired of this nonsense, but carry on we must. Okay, so I'm going to go over your happily married couple. And, you guys are close, but, obviously, like, you must have noticed as you were going through it that there was, like, things that just simply didn't make sense. So, anyway, here's my take on it. Rare are such long-lasting marriages, which are ended by death and not by divorce, interrupted or ended by death and not divorce. The Romans were famous for getting divorced. They practically invented the institution. Contigit nobis ut ad annum quadraginta unum sine offensa perduceretur. It happened for us that it continued to the 41st year without unpleasantness or without unhappiness. So basically, like, we were lucky enough to have a marriage of 41 years without any unhappiness. Now, that's a rare thing back then. Remember that marriage ceremonies or marriages in general are, basically a kind of like a compact, like almost a financial compact, which is not really to be looked askance at, in the ancient world. Like in the ancient world, things were always uncertain to a degree. Nowadays, we have all kinds of money and security, and we're not worried about, things falling apart, and therefore we choose whom we want to marry. But back then, there was a serious focus on continuity of families, and it's justified, I think, back then. Anyway, okay, so it's not like they were married in the year 41 AD or whatever you guys said. Like that I mean, maybe that would be somewhat close in time, but I don't think so. This is discussing their actual marriage, like the years of their marriage, 41 years of marriage, okay? So this is a happy thing in ancient Rome. Utinam vetusta conjunctio habuisset mutationem vice mea, qua justius erat cedere fato maiorem. I guess I would say something like utinam, remember utinam, if only, or like I wish that this long marriage had an end, mutationem had, like, basically had come to an end by my, I think he's saying like my death here, vice mea, or through my own part. But I think that he means by my death, which would have been more just. It would have been more just for me, the older one, to yield to fate. So basically saying, I wish that I had died before you did, if I can sum it up abruptly and quickly. And then he like starts to talk about her domestic or her household virtues, which again back then were, really important. So domestica bona, pudicitiae obsequii comitatis facilitatis lanifici studii religionis sine superstitione Ornatus non conspiciendi, cultus modici cor memorem. So this is a very well-spoken man. He has these he knows how to speak. He's saying why should I recall, or why should I remember your domestic or household qualities? Now, it sounds really bad in our time to say domestic goods or domestic qualities, But he means, why should I remember basically how good a wife and a keeper of our home you were? And then he mentions, her shame, or not her shame, but her modesty, her obedience, her friendliness, her good nature, and the way that she spun wool, and her attention to religion without superstition, which I think is still a good quality these days. Attention to religion without superstition, or without going overboard with some things. And ornatus non conspiciendi is being elegant without being too conspicuous, or not being elegant without being showy, a simplicity of dress. And then he continues, why should I speak about your love of why should I speak about your affection towards your family members when equally you had love for my mother as your own parents? And why and actually in no other way did you care for her, meaning Ili is the man's mother, than your own family members. So basically, how rare is it to find someone who cares for a mother-in-law just as he or she does a mother? And I'll tell you, I've been down that road myself, and it's not so simple. And finally, Caetera innumerabila. Something why recall the many other virtues which you have in common, which you share with all married women who desire a good name, dignam famam. These are yours alone, which I praise, or which I commend, or which I claim for you. And few wives who have fallen into similar circumstances, and I think, the circumstances were tough circumstances during the Civil Wars. Few people have possessed similar virtues, or they have not suffered so many things, and they have not been excellent in such things. It took me a while here because, I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen this passage, so sorry about the hemming and the hawing and the ums and the ahs, but I think you can see that basically he's saying that, it's a rare thing to have a wife like this back then, and this man clearly was under some major duress and suspicion during the Civil War, and his wife protected him and cared for him, and sadly she died before he did, and he memorializes her in this speech. And I guess it goes on into B. It's been a couple years since I've actually done this chapter. I've occasionally skipped over it, but the more I look at it now and try to imagine myself in this man's position, the more I'm compelled by it. Okay, that's enough. Reading B for tomorrow, okay? And that'll be due on Wednesday. Take care.